Alright, so if you watched the 2 videos before, you know that 1, top 10 disappointing games, 2, top 10 bizarre games of the year. Now let's get to the top 10 best games of the year. These are unequivocally the best games of the year. Well, some of the best games. Some people will disagree with me, but for me, these are the 10 most games that I had the best moments with. They just good examples of just great game development, stuff like that. So, well, let's not dilly-dally. Let's get to it.
Now, this is the first game I played for the year, and it was Broken Age. It was my first game that I got for Double Fine, and it was so cool for them to give me a copy of this. Again, I want to be upfront about that. But, you know, a short adventure game, but I played it in, I think, just 2 settings. I played it almost all the way through. I would say halfway through the first part of it, and I got stuck, so I was like, I'll put it away. And the next day I played it again, and I couldn't stop playing it. It is beautiful, it is charming, it is funny, and it's just something wholly unexpected that I was like, wow, this is the first big Kickstarter project to come out, and I was just flabbergasted how like great and awesome it was. So it was a very special treat. Then, of course, we have another special treat, and that is Infamous Second Son, which really was the first game that really demonstrated how cool the PS4 is in terms of showing the graphical prowess, not just like the environments and everything like that, because, you know, it looks very similar to the other Infamous games, but the particle effects, shooting fireballs and smoke and jumping up chimneys, shooting neon bolts, and all, just the particle effects, just like draining stuff in general into your character is just phenomenal. I dug it. I dug it a lot, and I love the Infamous games. So if you like superheroes and smashing stuff, it's just crazy action, cool. The story, another game on here that's just like X-Men, but this one is more X-Men. This one's the most X-Men homage of the year. And speaking of homages, Bravely Default is the most Final Fantasy game of the year, more so than Lightning Returns. It breathed new life into the RPG genre. The coolest thing with it was being able to completely turn off random encounters or set the dial to whatever you want, like completely off, completely super high where every step is like an enemy if you want to grind. And it's just being able to have that choice without having an item for that is so way forward thinking, and along with, you know, just like the genre of just like growing up, this is how it should be from now on. You can also fast forward battles up to 2 times the speed, or 3 times the speed I should say, and all the job classes and just the beautiful world. And, you know, it has its dips in there, but it is also just like one of the craziest, coolest games of the year. So congratulations to Square Enix for having a couple games in the worst category, as well as having a really, really awesome game to outshine both Thief and Lightning Returns for just an awesome, awesome game. And another awesome RPG. It was a good year for RPGs, I gotta say. South Park The Stick of Truth, by all means, I thought it looked like a great game, and knowing that Matt Stone and Trey Parker were working with the studio to make this game, a awesome developer that made New Vegas and the other Old Republic game, the second one. Yeah, you know, they are a very, very buggy studio, and, you know, this game still had some bugs in it, but it was better than it had any right to be, in that it was just phenomenal. I'm not just saying, like, yeah, it's pretty good for a South Park game, or, you know, it's a pretty good RPG with South Park in it, but no, it is gorgeous. It really does feel like you're playing the show, as much as I hate when people say that's like, Naruto, Shippuden, Ultimate Ninja Flick of Pink, Old Ninja 2072. Like you're playing the show, even though I've said that before about other stuff too. It's just kind of annoying when you're like, you know, you're playing the show, and some games do cel shading great, where, you know, it looks like the aesthetic of shows or comics or whatever. But this one literally looks like you're just playing like stills from the show. It's crazy. All the voice acting is there, all the humor is there. It's like a full season of jokes in there, and it's just callbacks to all their stuff that you really wanted them to bring back and show, and instead they just put in this game, and it was just... I could talk hours and hours about the stick of truth. We should move on. It's just awesome. It's just well deserving to be on this list, let's say. Another game that I could just talk hours and hours on is Shovel Knight. Another big Kickstarter proponent of just being a success and actually coming out and actually being awesome. It was made by just a handful of guys. It is basically DuckTales meets Mega Man and a little bit of some other games in there as well. Gosh, how to explain this? You know, just experience it is just great. If you just like the old school aesthetic, or you just love puzzle platformers, or you love Mega Man, it's just... Oh, I could just gush on this thing for hours. Just the art, the pixel art, man, and the levels, the design, control of the Shovel Knight is just superb. And the music, my God, is that an awesome music? So good. If I had the best music category, Shovel Knight would win. It so good. Oh, guy. I'm just gonna explode over here, so let's move on. Destiny is a game that almost made it to my disappointing list, and then I thought about it. You know, Peter Dinklage had a really sloppy job in that game, and the story in general was just not there. The endgame content is there, but very grindy. But when I really thought about it, a lot of the positives, it just like outweighed the negatives. Sure, it has a lot of that bad stuff in there, but in terms of just shooting, killing things, my favorite shooter of the year, I just couldn't put it down. It was just awesome. You know, the world that they built is so cool, even though they don't flesh it out with a great story. Just the environments they build is just awesome looking. Just the PS4, that crispness. I thought that infamous Second Son was great, but then I played this, I'm like, man, this thing is amazing. And you get to have a freaking speeder bike. I said this in my review. Speeder bike, you put that in a game that you can just make it appear at any moment. You just get an automatic 5 out of 5. Of course, I reviewed it and I gave it a 4 out of 5. But I'm just saying that if it was just speeder bike, it's just... Oh my gosh, I love it. I love that game a lot, even though it has so many faults. It's so... but, you know, the pros for me outweigh the bad. And, you know, I play a lot of it, and it just should be on this list. Okay, it should be on the list. The same thing with The Evil Within. Oh, man. A lot of people hated it, and a lot of people liked it a lot. And I felt, and of course, this is the best game of the year. I'm putting it into the great games because I liked it a lot. I didn't like the letterboxing. I thought it looked, you know, I played it on PS4. I thought it looked like a PS3 game. Not even the best looking of PS3 games. It showed its age for sure, and you can tell because it was a long development cycle. But I mean, if you love Resident Evil 4, but like with more enhanced mechanics of standard stuff, this is here. The story is kind of predictable in parts, but also very cool. It's also very frustrating in some parts as well, in terms of some mechanics and checkpoint systems and stuff. But I mean, in terms of like killing weird zombie things and the atmosphere that they present with the horrorness, it is just... I think you should get over some of the things in the game that might make you say, nah, I don't want to play it. It is just that good. You just... you gotta play it. Same thing with Bayonetta 2. Now, it is a very stylistic game, and it looks great, but again, it's just like a very nice HD game from the last generation for a newer console, which is a weird thing to say. But it's just, you know, it's more Bayonetta, it's very crazy. It's another thing where the story is just bullshit. Not even just like bullshit, where it's like, yeah, it was kind of a mess story. The story is... It's told through weird dialogue choices that they wrote that felt like a 10-year-old made them and written them. And it's just a lot of nonsense being spoken to make it seem mysterious than it actually is. It's just more frustrating. And they wouldn't shut up. Until, like, the last part of the game, you do a couple fights, and then a cutscene. You do a couple more fights, and you do a cutscene. And sometimes the cutscenes are very cool, and it's, like, in-game. Sometimes they're just, like, stills where they're talking through stuff. And I didn't understand why they did that in terms of... this their choice of why wouldn't you just like have this scene play out normally instead of doing a scene and then a scene within a scene. And you know, it's probably for budgetary reasons, for animation and stuff. But it seems kind of tacky. But I will say, when you do play the game, the action's awesome. Being able to unlock Nintendo costumes, it was just awesome. I mean, you can freaking best Metroid game of the year, and it's the only Metroid game of the year where you can freaking dress up as Samus Aran as Bounty Hunter, and it's not just like costume choices. It's the full scale experience. Metroid, for example, you can roll into a ball, you can plant bombs. It has the the voice samples and sound effects, I should say. And the same thing with if you're playing with a Link costume, you have the rupees come out instead of your golden rings. It's just a lot of care went into this game, and it's just a hell of a fun to play. I think it's better than the first one in terms of the action, but the story is just wow. But let's talk about a good story. Let's talk about Dragon Age Inquisition. This is a game where I didn't like the first game that much, and I liked the combat better of 2, but I didn't like the story better in 2, and this is a good mash of the 2 games. Finally into the 3rd entry, where they finally got it right, and they balanced everything out, and going through all these regions and all this political prowess and all these crazy things happening. I will say it's a very slow start for the first 3 to 4 hours, and even then, after you do some story stuff, then it really starts to get like, wow, awesomely good after the first 7 to 10 hours, depending on how long you spend in the hinterlands. People that play the game, they know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about out there, yeah. But yeah, it's great, and it's just a good RPG. It's a good year for RPGs, and it's also a good year for shooting stuff. Because if you liked Far Cry 3, you're gonna like Far Cry 4. I should just end it like that. It's just more Far Cry 3, but with just some improved graphics and some improved stuff. Like you have a grappling hook, you got a wingsuit. Just the gameplay itself has just been tweaked a little bit. I mean, being able to ride animals and just having the unpredictability of wandering around this big, open, vast wilderness and having these animals attack you, and then be able to bait animals to attack other people. They use a lot of mechanics they created for their sub game when they made Far Cry 3, the Blood Dragon, where you could throw bait and attract the laser dinosaurs and dragons. And it comes back for this too, when you can throw rocks through windshields. It's just really great. Pagan Min is just such a bastard. It's an awesome thing to hate him. And the story's okay. They do some dips, ups and downs with that, but just a fun game. But in terms of my favorite game of the year, I really had to think long and hard about this one, because it was down to the Stick of Truth and Shovel Knight. I'm a huge South Park fan. I'm a huge retro game fan. I love Mega Man. I love RPGs. It was a very, very hard choice for me. But I think just given the fact that everything's lined up, everything lined up against South Park to be bad, because there's not really been a good South Park game at all. There's been some tolerable ones, but most of them have just been bad. And when I saw Shovel Knight, I always knew that it was going to be great. I didn't think it was going to be as great as it was, of course, but I knew it was going to be good. This one I thought it was going to be kind of like one of those bad games, but it just turned out to be super good. What I'm aiming at is South Park The Stick of Truth is my game of the year for 2014. It is awesome. I don't have anything else to say. I spoke my words. You can watch my review of it. You can read my review of it. It's just my voice has been given up because I've been doing so many of these videos. So I'm sorry if I'm quiet in some parts and gravelly, but yeah, South Park The Stick of Truth, my game of the year for 2013. Boo 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 boo. Oh yeah, but I'm looking forward to what 2015 has now. But now I'm gonna drink some water and go to bed and sleep this voice deprivation off. But congratulations, South Park, you are awesome.
Boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, subscribe, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom. boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom, ba-jack, boom, ba-jack, boom, boom. Subscribe.